They abandoned the starship until a human mechanic awakened its power. Part 1. The transport shuttle shook as it passed through the debris field, held tight to her seat and looked out the small window. Outside, she could see thousands of dead starships floating in the darkness. Some were small fighters. Others were massive cruisers bigger than cities. All of them were broken, forgotten, and left to rot in the cold emptiness of space. This was the ship graveyard. The Galactic Council sent their unwanted vessels here to die. Ships that were too old, too damaged, or too strange to operate ended up in this orbital junkyard, and now would work here too. She was 34 years old, with short black hair and hands covered in old burn scars from years of engine work. Back on Earth, she had been a starship engineer on merchant vessels. She was good at her job, maybe too good. Her last captain fired her for making unauthorized repairs to the engine. The repairs worked perfectly, but she had not asked for permission. The captain called it excessive creativity, called it keeping everyone alive. Now she had no choice but to take this low-paying salvage contract. It was the only job available for a human mechanic with a bad reputation. The shuttle landed with a loud clang, grabbed her tool bag and walked down the ramp into the station. The air smelled like metal and chemicals. The walls were stained with years of neglect. Workers of different species moved past her without looking. Nobody cared about a new arrival. "You are the human." Turned to see a tall creature with 4 arms and a head like an insect. His eyes were black and showed no emotion. This was one of the species that ran the graveyard. "I am," she said. "I am here for the mechanic position." "I know why you are here," they said. "I am foreman. You will work under my command. Do not expect special treatment because you are human. Your species has a reputation for being creative. I do not want creativity. I want obedience." Bit her tongue. She needed this job. Understood. Handed her a data pad. "You are assigned to Sector 9. You will catalog ships and mark them for salvage. Do not enter any vessels without permission. Do not touch any systems. Do not cause problems." Sector 9, repeated. She had read about the graveyard before arriving. Sector 9 was the oldest section, filled with ancient ships that nobody wanted to deal with. It was punishment duty. "May I ask why that sector?" "Because humans are cheap labor," said without emotion, "and because nobody else wants to go there." He walked away before she could respond. Found her quarters, a small room with a bed and a broken light. She dropped her bag on the floor and sat down. For a moment, she let herself feel tired and disappointed. Then she stood up again. Feeling sorry for herself would not pay her bills. The next morning, she took a small transport pod to Sector 9. The journey took 2 hours through fields of floating wreckage. When she arrived, she understood why nobody wanted this assignment. The ships here were ancient. Their designs were strange and unfamiliar. Some looked like they were grown rather than built. Others had shapes that made no sense, with angles that hurt her eyes if she looked too long. She was not alone. A small skinned creature with 3 eyes waited for her at the sector entrance. He was young, maybe the equivalent of a human teenager, and he looked nervous. "Hello," he said. I am. They assigned me as your partner." "Nice to meet you," said. "Have you worked in this sector before?" "No, nobody has worked here for many years." 3 eyes blinked at different times. "The ships here are strange. Some say they are cursed." "I do not believe in curses," said. "Only in bad maintenance." They spent the day cataloging ships near the sector entrance. Most were empty shells, stripped of anything valuable long ago. Made notes on her data pad while followed nervously behind her. Then she saw it. Half buried under a pile of debris was a ship unlike anything else in the graveyard. It was massive, at least 2 kilometers long, with a hull that seemed to shift between black and silver depending on the light. The design was elegant and deadly, like a weapon made by artists. "What is that?" asked. face went pale. That is the eternal dawn. We should not go near it. Why not? Because everyone who has tried to activate it has died. Took a step backward. The ship is thousands of years old. It was here before the Galactic Council existed. Many engineers tried to make it work. None of them survived. The Council declared it forbidden 400 years ago. Stared at the ship. Something about it called to her. She could not explain the feeling. It was like hearing a voice too quiet to understand. "Wait here," she said. "What? No," said, "we cannot enter any ships without permission." But was already moving. She climbed over the debris and found an opening in the hull. The metal was cold under her fingers. She expected to find darkness inside, but soft blue lights flickered along the corridor, guiding her forward. The interior of the ship was beautiful. The walls curved like the inside of a living creature. Patterns moved across surfaces like gentle breathing. This ship was not dead. It was sleeping. She walked deeper, following the lights until she reached what looked like a control room. A large chair sat in the center, facing a dark screen. Dust covered everything, but the air felt fresh, like the ship was still producing oxygen. Approached the main control panel. It was covered in symbols she did not recognize. But somehow they felt familiar, like words from a dream she had forgotten. She reached out and touched the panel. The ship shuddered. Lights exploded across every surface. The screen in front of her blazed with white light. She heard sounds all around her, systems coming alive after centuries of silence. Then a voice spoke. It was deep and ancient, speaking in a language no translator could identify. The words made no sense, but understood fragments of their meaning. WHO, WKS, ME. Her heart was beating fast, but she did not run. Instead, she spoke softly, like her grandmother had taught her to speak to wounded animals. "My name is," she said. "I am a mechanic. I did not mean to disturb you. I just wanted to see if you were okay." The voice went silent. The lights dimmed but did not go out. Had the strange feeling that the ship was studying her, looking into her soul. Then the voice spoke again, clearer this time. "You are different." Behind her appeared at the doorway, his 3 eyes wide with terror. "What have you done?" he whispered. Did not answer. She kept her hand on the panel, feeling warmth spread through the cold metal. For the first time in 400 years, the eternal dawn was waking up, and for reasons she did not understand, it had chosen her. They abandoned the starship, until a human mechanic awakened its power. Part 2. Stood in the heart of the ancient ship, her hand still resting on the control panel. The blue lights around her pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Remained at the doorway, too scared to come closer but too curious to run away. "We need to leave," said. His voice was shaking. "This ship killed many people. Engineers, scientists, soldiers. They all died trying to wake it up." "I am not trying to wake it up," said calmly. "I think it is already awake. It just needed someone to listen." She took her hand off the panel and looked around the control room. Everything felt alive. The walls had patterns that moved like blood through veins. The floor was warm under her boots. This was not a normal machine. This was something between technology and life. "I want to see the engine room," she said. "Are you insane?" asked. "Probably," admitted. "But I have come this far. I want to understand what this ship really is." She followed the corridor deeper into the vessel. The lights guided her, brightening ahead and dimming behind, like the ship was showing her the way. Followed at a distance, muttering prayers in his native language. The engine room was unlike anything had ever seen. There was no reactor, no fuel tanks, no mechanical parts she could recognize. Instead, at the center of the room sat something that looked like a giant heart wrapped in crystal. It glowed with a soft purple light, and thin lines of energy spread from it through the walls like roots of a tree. "This is biological," whispered. "The power source is alive." She moved closer and studied the crystal structures. They were cracked in several places. Old damage, perhaps from battles fought thousands of years ago, but the cracks were slowly healing, growing back together like bone repairing itself. The ship is not broken, she realized. It is healing, it just needs time. She remembered what had said about previous attempts to activate the ship. Engineers had tried to force it awake with power surges and override commands. They had treated it like a broken machine that needed to be fixed by force. But this ship was not a machine. It was alive, and you could not force a living thing to trust you. Sat down on the floor in front of the crystal heart. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she began to speak. "I know you are scared," she said softly. "I know people have hurt you before. They came with tools and commands. They wanted to control you. But I am not here to control you. I am just a mechanic. I fix things. And I think you have been broken for a very long time." The lights around her flickered. The crystal heart pulsed a little brighter. "My grandmother taught me that all things have a spirit," continued. "Machines, animals, rivers, mountains, everything deserves respect. Everything responds to kindness." She opened her eyes and looked at the glowing heart. "I do not know who built you or why, but I can see that you are in pain. I can see that you have been alone for a very long time. I want to help you, but only if you want my help." Silence filled the room, held his breath. For a long moment nothing happened. Then the ship responded. The crystal heart blazed with light. Energy flowed through the walls like rivers of fire. The whole vessel shuddered and heard systems activating throughout the ship. Doors opened. Air began to circulate. Screens lit up with information. And then the voice spoke again, clearer than before. "I am called Solace." Smiled. "Hello, Solace, my name is. I know your name. I have been listening to your heartbeat since you entered my body." The voice was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was ancient and wise and filled with something that sounded like sadness. "You are the first to speak to me with kindness in 3,000 years." 3,000 years, whispered from the doorway. "That is impossible. The Galactic Council is only 2,000 years old." "I existed before your council," Solace said. "I was created by a species called the Architects. They built me to protect life in this galaxy. But they are gone now, and I have been sleeping, waiting for someone worthy to wake me." Stood up slowly. "Why did you reject everyone else? Why did they die?" "They came with greed in their hearts. They wanted to use my power for war, for conquest, for profit. I could feel their intentions, so I defended myself." Solace paused. "I did not want to kill them, but I could not allow myself to be used for evil." "And me?" asked. "What do you feel from me?" "Kindness, loneliness, a desire to help things that are broken." The lights pulsed gently around her. "You remind me of the Architects. They too believed that all things deserved respect." Finally stepped into the engine room. His fear was fading, replaced by wonder. "This is incredible," he said. "A ship that can read emotions. A ship that chooses its own crew." "I am more than a ship," Solace said. "I am a guardian, and I must warn you, something is coming. Something that the Architects built me to fight against." Felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean? What is coming?" Before Solace could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the graveyard station. Red lights flashed in the distance, visible through the ship's newly activated sensors. "What is happening?" asked. Ran to a screen and saw the sensor data. Something had entered the far edge of the system. Not one ship, not 10 ships. Thousands of ships, moving in perfect formation like a swarm of insects. "The Hollow," Solace said. The ship's voice was heavy with ancient fear. "They have returned." "The Hollow?" asked. "I have never heard of them." "They are a machine swarm. They consume starships and planets for resources. They destroyed dozens of civilizations before the Architects stopped them." Solace's lights dimmed. "That war ended 3,000 years ago. The Architects believed the Hollow were destroyed forever. They were wrong." stared at the sensor screen. The swarm was still far away, but it was moving fast. At this speed, it would reach the graveyard in a few days. "Can you fight them?" she asked. "I was built to fight them," Solace said. "But I have been sleeping for too long. My systems are not fully repaired. My weapons are offline. I need time." "How much time?" "More than we have." Grabbed's arm. "We need to warn the station. We need to evacuate." He was right. Thousands of workers lived on the graveyard station. They had no idea what was coming for them. But as looked around at the awakening ship, she felt something she had not felt in years. Purpose. This ship had waited 3,000 years for someone to trust. It had chosen her. She could not abandon it now. "Solace," she said, "I will help you. I will find a way to repair your systems. I will find a way to stop the Hollow." "You are one human," Solace said. "The Hollow destroyed entire civilizations." Smiled. "Then they have never met a human mechanic who was told she was too creative." She turned to, "Go back to the station. Tell them what is coming. Tell them about Solace. I will stay here and start working on repairs." Hesitated. "They will not believe me, will think I am insane." "Then make them believe. Show them the sensor data." Put her hand on his shoulder. "I know you are scared. I am scared too, but we do not have time for fear anymore." Looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded and ran toward the exit. Turned back to the crystal heart, rolled up her sleeves and got to work. The galaxy thought this ship was cursed. The galaxy thought humans were weak and unimportant, but knew something the galaxy did not. Sometimes the smallest spark could light the biggest fire, and she had been waiting her whole life to burn. They abandoned the starship until a human mechanic awakened its power. Part 3. The graveyard station was in chaos. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Workers ran in all directions, some toward emergency shelters, others toward the docking bays. Fear spread faster than any official announcement. Foreman stood in the command center, his 4 arms working different control panels at once. His black insect eyes showed no emotion, but his movements were rushed. He had seen the sensor data. He knew what was coming. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "The Hollow were destroyed 3,000 years ago. Every historical record confirms it." "Apparently the records were wrong," said a cold voice behind him. Turned to see Ambassador enter the room. The diplomat was tall and reptilian, with green scales and yellow eyes that showed no warmth. Behind him walked Commander, a military officer with pale blue skin and a face built for combat. "The Galactic Council has been monitoring the situation," said. "The swarm will reach this station in 72 hours. We are beginning emergency evacuation procedures." 72 hours is not enough time," said. "We have 12,000 workers on this station. Our transport capacity can only evacuate half of them." "Then half will survive," said without concern. "The Council's priority is containing this threat, not saving salvage workers." Stepped forward. "My fleet is 3 days away. If the station can hold until then, we might be able to mount a defense." "Your fleet against thousands of hollow ships," shook his head. "That is not a defense, that is suicide." The door opened again and ran into the room. He was breathing hard, his 3 eyes wide with urgency. Behind him walked a human man in a diplomatic uniform. This was an engineer from Earth's diplomatic corps who had been stationed at the graveyard for the past year. Foreman said, "I have important news. The eternal dawn is awake." Every person in the room went silent. "That is impossible," said. "That ship has been dormant for 400 years. Every attempt to activate it failed." A human mechanic woke it up, said. "Her name is—" She spoke to the ship like it was alive, and it responded. "The ship has a name. It calls itself Solace, and it says it was built to fight the Hollow." Stared at like he had grown a second head. A human woke up the cursed ship by talking to it. "It is not cursed, it is sentient. It rejected previous crews because they approached with greed and force, approached with respect, looked around at the skeptical faces. I know it sounds insane, but I was there. I saw it happen. Yellow eyes narrowed. If this is true, then we have an even bigger problem. A sentient warship of unknown origin cannot be allowed to operate independently. It must be destroyed before the Hollow can capture it. Destroyed, shouted. It might be our only chance to survive. Or it might be a greater threat than the Hollow themselves, said. We know nothing about this ship's true capabilities or intentions. I am ordering it eliminated immediately. Stepped forward. Wait, if this ship really was built to fight the Hollow, we should study it first. My empire could use technology like that. Your empire wants to steal it for military advantage, said. I expected nothing less from them. At least I want to use it, not destroy it like a coward. Raised his hand. Perhaps we should hear from the human who actually woke the ship before we make any decisions. Looked at him with disgust. And who are you? Earth Diplomatic Corps, Engineering Division. I was sent here to monitor human workers in the graveyard. He paused. And to keep an eye on any unusual developments. I think a 3,000-year-old warship waking up qualifies as unusual. Earth has no authority here, said. This is a council matter. Earth is a member of the council, replied calmly. And one of our citizens is currently inside that ship. I have a duty to investigate. The argument continued for another hour. Wanted the ship destroyed. Wanted it captured. Just wanted to evacuate his workers. And kept trying to explain that Solace was not a threat, that it had chosen for a reason. Finally, they agreed to hold a formal hearing. Would be brought before the council representatives to explain her actions and demonstrate the ship's capabilities. If she could prove that Solace could help fight the Hollow, she would be given 48 hours to prepare. If not, the ship would be destroyed. Volunteered to go to the Eternal Dawn and bring back for the hearing. Insisted on going with him. They took a transport pod through the debris field to Sector 9. The Eternal Dawn looked different now. Its hull seemed brighter, more alive. Blue lights glowed along its surface like circuits in a living machine. They found in the engine room, covered in grease and surrounded by tools. She had been working for 6 hours straight, repairing damaged conduits and reconnecting power lines. The council wants to destroy this ship, said without greeting. Did not look up from her work. I know. Solace has been monitoring their communications. And you are not worried. I am very worried, but being worried will not fix this power coupling. She finally stood and wiped her hands on her pants. Who are you? Earth Diplomatic Corps. I was sent here to support you. Support me or spy on me? Hesitated. Both, honestly. Earth Command wanted someone keeping an eye on unusual human activity in the outer systems. Almost smiled. At least you are honest. That is rare for a diplomat. You need to come back to the station, said. The council is holding a hearing. You have to convince them that this ship is not a threat. This ship is absolutely a threat, said. That is the point. It was built to be a threat to things like the Hollow. She looked at the glowing crystal heart above her. Solace, can you show them what we are dealing with? The lights in the room shifted. Suddenly, the air filled with holographic images. Thousands of black ships moving through space like a cloud of locusts, planets being stripped to bare rock, civilizations screaming for help that never came. The Hollow consume everything, Solace's voice filled the room. They do not negotiate. They do not stop. They will devour this station, then this system, then every world in their path until nothing remains. Stared at the images. His face had gone pale. How many ships do they have? He asked. Current estimate, 8,000 combat units plus the Queen vessel that controls them. And you can fight 8,000 ships. I was built to fight millions, Solace said, but I am not fully healed. My weapons are at 30% capacity. My shields are at 40%. and I require a crew of at least 50 to operate at full effectiveness." "You have a crew of one," said. "I have," Solace replied. "She is worth more than 50 engineers who come with greed in their hearts." Felt warmth spread through her chest at those words. She had spent her whole life being told she was not good enough, too creative, too stubborn, too human, and now an ancient warship was telling her she was worth more than armies. "We need to go to the hearing," said. "We need to convince them to let you fight." Nodded, she grabbed her tool bag and headed for the exit. But before she left, she turned back to the Crystal Heart. "I will be back soon," she said. "Do not let them hurt you while I am gone." "I will wait," Solace said. "I have been waiting 3,000 years. I can wait a few more hours." Smiled and walked out into the darkness of the graveyard. Behind her, the eternal dawn pulsed with light, a sleeping giant slowly waking up for war. The Council thought they could destroy this ship. They thought they could control it, but they did not understand what they were dealing with. They had never seen a human fight for something she loved. They abandoned the starship until a human mechanic awakened its power. Part 4. The hearing lasted 3 hours. Stood in the center of the command room while Ambassador asked question after question, each one designed to make her look foolish or dangerous. "You expect us to believe that a ship rejected entire teams of trained engineers, but accepted a human salvage worker with no formal qualifications." "I have formal qualifications," said calmly. "I graduated top of my class from Technical Institute. I served 8 years on merchant vessels. I have repaired more engines than you have eaten meals. And yet you were fired from your last position. For being creative, for saving lives when my captain wanted to follow procedures that would have killed everyone." Looked directly in his yellow eyes. "Sometimes the rules are wrong. Sometimes you have to think differently to survive." Commander leaned forward. "The ship claims it was built to fight the Hollow. Can you prove this?" "Solace can prove it himself." The room went silent. Then every screen in the command center flickered and changed. Solace's voice filled the air. "I am transmitting historical records from my memory banks. These images show the war between the architects and the Hollow 3,000 years ago. The screens showed ancient battles, ships of beautiful design fighting against swarms of black machines, planets burning, stars dying, and in the center of every battle, vessels like the Eternal Dawn leading the charge against the darkness. The architects created 12 guardian ships," Solace explained. "I am the last one remaining. The others were destroyed in the final battle against the Hollow Queen. We believed the war was won. We were wrong. The Hollow survived. They have been rebuilding in the darkness between galaxies, waiting for their moment to return." Scales had turned a lighter shade of green. Fear looked strange on his reptilian face. "If what you say is true," he said slowly, "then one ship cannot stop them, even a guardian ship." "One ship stopped them before," Solace replied. "But you are correct. I cannot fight at full capacity without a proper crew. My weapons require manual targeting for maximum effectiveness. My shields need constant adjustment during combat, and my core systems need someone at the helm who I trust completely." "Then find a crew," said. "I will give you 50 of my best soldiers." "No," Solace's voice was firm. "I choose my crew, not you, and I choose as my commander." The room exploded with arguments. Demanded the ship accept council oversight. Wanted military control. Other representatives shouted about protocols and procedures and chains of command. Raised her hand. The room slowly went quiet. "Solace needs a crew of 50 to fight at full power," she said. "But what if we did not need full power? What if the ship controlled most systems itself, and we just handled the critical decisions?" "That has never been attempted," said. "Ships do not think for themselves during combat. They follow orders." "Most ships are not sentient," replied. "Solace is not a tool to be used. He is a partner to work with. If we trust him to control weapons and navigation and shields, we only need a small team to handle strategy and targeting." "How small?" asked. "Looked at and 3 people, 4 if you count Solace." The silence that followed was absolute. 3 people against 8,000 ships, said. "You are not brave, you are insane." "Maybe," admitted, "but insanity is the only option we have left." The vote was close. Wanted the ship destroyed, wanted it seized, but enough representatives were scared enough of the Hollow to try anything. In the end, they gave 48 hours to prepare the eternal dawn for battle. She returned to the ship immediately, and came with her. "I was sent here to spy on you," admitted as they walked through the ship's corridors. "Earth Command wanted information about unusual human activity in the outer systems." "I know," said, "you already told me." "I am telling you again because I want you to understand something." He stopped walking and faced her. "I am not spying anymore. What I saw in that hearing, what I heard from Solace, it changed something in me. I want to help, not for Earth Command, for you." Studied his face. He was younger than her, maybe 30, with serious eyes and hands that looked like they had never done real work. But there was honesty in his voice. "Can you operate weapon systems?" she asked. "I can learn." "Then welcome to the crew." Was already in the engine room when they arrived. The young had overcome his fear completely. Now he moved through the ship like he belonged there, checking systems and reading displays. "Solace has been teaching me," he explained. "The technology is different from anything I have studied, but the principles are the same. Energy flows, systems connect, everything works together." "Can you keep the engines running during combat?" asked. "I think so, but there is a problem." His 3 eyes looked worried. "Solace told me something. During battle, your minds will partially merge. You will feel what the ship feels. Its pain will become your pain." Nodded. She had expected something like this. "I can handle it." "You do not understand. The eternal dawn is 2 kilometers long. When weapons hit it, you will feel like your own body is being torn apart. Then I will have motivation to not get hit." Shook his head, but he did not argue further. The next 30 hours were the hardest of his life. She trained with Solace, learning how to merge her thoughts with the ship's systems. It was like learning to control a new body, a body made of metal and energy instead of flesh and blood. The pain was real. When Solace ran combat simulations, felt every impact like a punch to her chest. Her nose bled, her hands shook, but she did not stop. Meanwhile, learned the weapon systems. The targeting computers were incredibly advanced, capable of tracking thousands of objects at once. But the final decision to fire always needed a human mind. "Why?" asked. "Why not let Solace make all the decisions?" "Because I refuse to kill without judgment," Solace answered. "The architects built me with that restriction. Even in battle, even against enemies, the choice to take life must be made by a living being who understands what death means." The answer made quiet for a long time. On the morning of the battle, received a communication from Earth. It was her younger brother, Sangwoo, calling from their family home in. "I saw the news reports," Sangwoo said. His face on the screen looked scared but proud. "They say you woke up an ancient warship. They say you are going to fight a machine army by yourself." "Not by myself," said. "I have a crew and I have a friend. Grandmother would be proud of you. She always said you were special." Felt tears in her eyes. "I might not come back from this." "I know," Sangwoo smiled sadly. "But if anyone can do the impossible, it is you. You were always too stubborn to know when to quit." "I love you, little brother." "I love you too. Go save the galaxy." The communication ended. Sat in the command chair for a long moment, letting the emotions pass through her. Then she heard Solace's voice. "The Hollow Fleet will arrive in 6 hours. They came early." Of course they did. Nothing in life had ever been easy. She looked at the engine station and at the weapons console. Both of them were scared. Both of them were staying anyway. "Let us go say hello to our guests," said. The eternal dawn rose from the graveyard like a phoenix rising from ashes. Weapons emerged from hidden compartments. Shields activated with a shimmer of blue energy. The ship was beautiful and terrible, a weapon built by gods to fight monsters. And at its heart sat one human woman, ready to show the galaxy what humanity could do. They abandoned the starship until a human mechanic awakened its power. Part 5. The hollow swarm filled the darkness like a cloud of black locusts. 8,000 ships moved in perfect formation, each one a machine built only to consume and destroy. At their center floated the Queen vessel, a massive structure that pulsed with dark energy, controlling every ship in the swarm with a single mind. The eternal dawn flew toward them alone. Behind, the graveyard station was evacuating. Transport ships carried thousands of workers toward safety, but they were too slow. If the hollow reached them, everyone would die. "Weapons at 32%, reported from his station. Shields at 44%. "Engines are stable," added, "for now." Sat in the command chair, her hands resting on the control surfaces. She could feel Solace's presence in her mind, a vast intelligence wrapped around her thoughts like a protective blanket. The ship's sensors were her eyes now. Its hull was her skin. Its weapons were her hands. "They see us," Solace said. "The Queen is directing 300 ships to intercept." Watched the enemy formation split. A group of black vessels broke away from the swarm and accelerated toward them. They looked like insects, angular and sharp, with no beauty in their design. They were tools of destruction, nothing more. Said calmly, "Show them what we can do." The weapons fired. Beams of white light shot from the eternal dawn, cutting through the darkness. Where they touched hollow ships, the machines dissolved, their molecular structure falling apart in seconds. One shot, one kill. The architect weapons were beyond anything the galaxy had seen in 3,000 years. But there were too many. For every ship that died, 3 more took its place. The hollow swarmed around the eternal dawn like insects around a flame. They fired weapons of their own, black energy that struck the shields and made the whole ship shake. Felt the impacts like punches to her body. Her vision flashed white. Blood dripped from her nose, but she did not disconnect. She could not afford to disconnect. "Shields at 36%, reported. His voice was scared but steady. "They are adapting to our weapons," Solace warned. "Each wave is more resistant than the last. The hollow learn from every engagement." "Then we need to hit them harder," focused her thoughts, and the ship responded. Weapons fire intensified. The eternal dawn spun through space, avoiding clusters of enemy ships while targeted the most dangerous threats. Behind them, Commander's cruiser joined the fight. The warship was tiny compared to the eternal dawn, but fought with courage that had not expected. Her weapons' fire drew hollow ships away from the evacuation transports, buying precious minutes for the fleeing workers. "The Queen vessel is targeting the transports," Solace said suddenly. "It knows we are protecting them. It wants to draw us out." Saw it on the sensors. The massive Queen ship was turning toward the evacuation convoy. Thousands of people would die if it reached them. She had a choice: chase the Queen and destroy it, or stay between the swarm and the transports to protect them. She could not do both. "Solace, can we reach the Queen before it reaches the transports?" "No, but we can shield the transports if we move now." Made her decision instantly. Move to protect them. "That will put us directly in the swarm's path. We will take heavy damage." "I know, do it anyway." The eternal dawn flew toward the evacuation convoy, placing itself between the transports and the approaching swarm. Hollow ships surrounded them on all sides. Weapons fire struck from every direction. Screamed. The pain was beyond anything she had imagined. Every impact felt like fire burning through her body. Her hands gripped the controls so hard that her knuckles turned white. Tears streamed down her face, but she did not let go. "Shields at 20%, shouted. "Keep them up as long as you can." Cruiser took a direct hit, watched on the sensors as the ship broke apart, but a moment later an escape pod launched from the wreckage had survived. "The Queen is preparing its main weapon," Solace said. "If it fires on the transports, nothing will survive." Looked at the sensor display. The Queen vessel was enormous, 5 times the size of the Eternal Dawn. Its main weapon was charging, a ball of black energy forming at its center. There was only one way to stop it. "Solace, can you overload the core?" Silence, then yes, but that would destroy us both. "I know." "No," shouted. "There has to be another way." "There is not." Felt calm now. The pain was still there, but it seemed distant, like something happening to someone else. "Solace, I am sorry. I promised I would help you heal. I promised I would not let you be alone." "You kept your promise," Solace said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "For the first time in 3,000 years, I am not alone. That is enough." Smiled through her tears. "Then let us finish this together." The Eternal Dawn turned toward the Queen vessel and accelerated. Hollow ships tried to stop them, but the ancient warship was too fast, too powerful. It crashed through the swarm like a knife through paper. "Core overload initiated," Solace said. "Detonation in 60 seconds. Get to the escape pods." "We are not leaving you," said. "That is not a request. Someone needs to tell the galaxy what happened here. Someone needs to remember Solace." Looked back at them. "Please, let me do this." Was crying. His face was hard with anger and grief. But they both moved toward the escape pod bay. 30 seconds, Solace said. The Eternal Dawn was inside the Queen vessel now, pushing through layers of black metal and corrupted machinery. The overload was building, energy spiraling toward explosion. "Solace, can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Why me? Out of everyone who ever tried to wake you, why did you choose me?" "Because you saw me not as a tool, but as a friend. That is the human gift. You make the cold universe feel less alone." 10 seconds. Closed her eyes. She thought of her grandmother teaching her that all things had spirits. She thought of her brother telling her to save the galaxy. She thought of Solace, waiting 3,000 years for someone to show him kindness. 5 seconds. "I am not afraid," whispered. "Neither am I. Goodbye, my friend." The core exploded. Light filled the universe. The Queen vessel shattered. The hollow swarm went dark as their controlling mind was destroyed. Ships drifted aimlessly, their purpose gone, their threat ended. The evacuation transports survived. 12,000 workers watched from their windows as the light faded, wondering what had just saved their lives. In the wreckage of the Queen vessel, something impossible happened. A single escape pod floated among the debris. Inside was alive, unconscious but breathing. She should have been dead. The explosion should have destroyed everything. But Solace had one final secret. A backup core, hidden deep in his systems, something he had never told any previous crew about. In the last moment before detonation, he had transferred his critical functions and ejected to safety. When she woke up 3 days later in a medical station, Solace's voice was waiting for her. "I could not let you die," he said. "You are the first friend I have had in 3,000 years. I was not ready to lose you." Laughed and cried at the same time. "You stupid, wonderful ship. The Galactic Council wants to give you a fleet to command. They are calling you a hero." "I do not want a fleet." Looked out the medical station window at the stars. "I just want to go back to you. Someone needs to finish repairing that power coupling." The Council officially recognized the Eternal Dawn as a sentient being with full rights, the first non-biological entity to receive such status. They offered medals and titles and positions of power. She refused everything except one request, to stay with Solace while he healed. A year later, the Eternal Dawn was fully repaired, stronger than ever, served as its chief engineer, handled diplomatic relations with the Council, and sat in the command chair looking out at the stars. "Where do you want to go?" Solace asked. "Everywhere," said. "There is a whole galaxy out there. Let us see what needs fixing." The ship hummed with contentment. For 3,000 years it had waited for someone worthy. Now it had found a family. And together they flew into the endless darkness, carrying the light of hope to every corner of the universe.